Hey everyone, welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman. I'm excited to talk Timberwolves' big week and career year so far from Jaden McDaniels. We'll talk about Minnesota's exciting Big Ten opener for Niko Medved, and we'll also break down a little bit of the high school scene, including a couple games I witnessed firsthand at the Breakout Big Stage Classic in Hopkins, Minnesota. Lastly, I want to make sure that if you are enjoying the podcast, you share with your friends, like on Apple Podcasts, like on Spotify, leave us a review. I would love to hear back from anybody enjoying the podcast, or even frankly, what other things you want to talk about, because really this is a basketball podcast about all things relevant to people in the upper Midwest and Minnesota. So with that, let's get into it. All right, first thing I wanted to do tonight was talk a little bit about Jaden McDaniels and his career year that he's having. He's definitely worked on his game. He is becoming an all-around player, not just a defensive stalwart, but his efficiency on the offensive end has really made a lot of progress, I would say, in the last year or two. Specifically, it's noticeable when Anthony Edwards is out or off the court. Jaden has been able to elevate his game and become a primary scorer. You know, he and Julius Randle can handle the scoring when Ant is off the court, or if Julius is off the court and Ant and Jaden are on there, Jaden's the second option usually. So currently he's shooting 48.6% from three. He is averaging a career high in points per game, minutes per game, which tells me he's staying out of foul trouble, which is something he has struggled to do throughout his career. He is a career high in three-point percentage, currently third in the NBA in three-point percentage. I'm going to say that again. Jaden McDaniels is third in the NBA in three-point percentage. He's had the other years where he's been upper 30s, 39.8 as recent as 2022, 2023. But this year he is at 48.6%. The key here is that he is actually not taking the most threes he's ever taken. He is making by far the most threes he's ever made in a season. So he's on a great pace. The other thing is his free throw shooting. He's 86% from the free throw line. Just a phenomenal start in traditional metrics from Jaden. Now, other things, his rebounding is strong, though not a career high. He's at 4.7. His assists are at a career high level. Steals and blocks are both maintaining the excellency that he's set for himself. And there's different takes on the plus minus rating, but his, for what it's worth, is at a career high of 5.1 right now. His previous career high was 2.2. So sixth season for Jaden, really putting it all together right now. I think we've seen different moves, like he's got his little like rockabye jumper, pull-up jumper that he gets when he gets into the paint. He kind of can create some separation just from his length. He's knocking down his threes. And, when he's going and attacking the rim, he's pretty hard to stop because he's 6'9", and he's athletic. He's a wing player, but he's got crazy long arms. And so we're seeing some more finishes. I like that there's more attacking from him, especially when he's in the corner. He's not just standing. And he's really just, I think, kind of spearheading this latest push from the Wolves these last 5 games. The other night he had a big night. Against the Clippers, he goes for 27 points. And, that's just key when Ant was not on his game. Ant had 15, didn't shoot it well, and Jaden's there to pick up the slack. So Jaden and Julius combined for 51 of the team's 109. And that's just, a huge trend for the Timberwolves to be going in the right direction, to have that second scorer. And I think that's where, I question the front office's lack of moves, I guess, this offseason. And their hope was that the guys continued to develop. And I think so far they're probably being proven right, at least on Jaden's front, probably on Nas. Nas had another really strong game of 19 and 9 off the bench. The other guys, Terrence Shannon, Jalen Clark, we're still kind of waiting for some more consistency probably from them. I, of course, love Jalen Clark playing more minutes. He got 16 minutes on Saturday, and that also helps their perimeter defense a lot. So I think just overall, I don't know if people thought 3-4 years ago that Jaden would be able to score the way he is and how as efficient as he is. There were signs, there were moments, but really his offensive game has elevated to another level. I'm hoping that throughout the course of a season, Anthony Edwards, Dante, and Jalen Clark can take maybe some of that defensive pressure off of Jaden and let him be more of a roamer, shot blocker, rebounder. I'd love to see the Wolves put him more at like a small ball four and be just super feisty on the perimeter and let Jaden and maybe Rudy or maybe it's Nas just kind of roam in the back and play a little different style. But for right now, you got to be really, really thrilled with how Jaden McDaniels has developed. On that front, so more Timberwolves talk. That's 5 in a row now. Last night it looked dicey. They had an 18-point deficit at one point. Nas hits a big three late, and they win against the Clippers. They handle business down in New Orleans. And 2 of these last 3 games, Ant hasn't had great games, and so they're finding other ways to win, albeit against not great teams. They do get an interesting game against the Suns tomorrow night. So we're recording this on Sunday. They'll play Monday night against the Suns. And as we all know, the Suns game was one that they coughed up 8 with like 50 seconds left, and they lose. And so the Suns are playing well. Phoenix just beat the Lakers last Monday before losing to the Rockets on Friday, but that's one of those winning teams, a team that is in the playoff hunt around the Timberwolves, where they're going to be, right? In that 4th, probably to 8th range in the West. And it's a big game because, they really coughed that one up last week against the Suns, and I think they need to come out, play well. Hopefully Ant has a bounce back game. He just hasn't, found it the last couple of games, but as we know, he's can often be a big time performer when the stakes are the highest. He should be playing his best, hopefully. And we'll see how the Wolves handle that. The Pelicans games, they're always tough, right? Like you're on a back-to-back in the same town. It's easy to get complacent. And actually, the second game of that, they looked better. They had to go to overtime and beat them the first time. The second game, they win by 9. It's a good sign for this team's maturity. In years past, they would lose one of those games. They would, fall apart against a really bad team, like the Wizards or the Nets or somebody like that. We just have weird, bad performances. And so far this year, that hasn't really been the case outside of that loss to Phoenix. And I would say that loss to the Kings was really bad. Another lead late. So this week starts, they got the Suns on Monday. They got the Warriors on Friday. And then they get the Kings and Grizzlies. And after that, they go Thunder, Bucks. I think they got the Knicks in there. I think there might be a Nuggets game in there. So there's a tougher stretch coming up here. And I think, the Wolves, having won 5 in a row, hopefully are feeling better about themselves. And they're currently in 6th in the West. However, they're only a game and a half out of 2nd in the West. So the West, as we all kind of knew, is going to be really tight. It's going to be really closely contested outside of OKC, who's on another level. But between Houston, LA, Denver, Minnesota, there's a lot of jockeying that's going to be happening. And so it's only December, but these games are important. So that's why I think winning those games against New Orleans in overtime the other night, winning that game against the Clippers the other night, even though if it's ugly, even if it's not the prettiest win, you're getting it done. And that's the most important thing for this team's development and this team's playoff component. As good as that felt a couple years ago to go to Denver and win a 7-game series without home court, I don't think you want to do that with this year's Denver team. Even Houston, it would be nice to get a home playoff series in that first round. So, it could be the Lakers as well. Lakers at full strength, a little bit tough right? Warriors last year, we got lucky. They didn't have Steph. And that's another team that's going to be in the mix. So I think these games this week in December, they're important, even if they're not the most marquee matchups. They're not playing Denver. They've only played OKC once. So beating these other teams is crucial at this point to set yourself up for April, right? To not cough that one up. You don't. I even, as soon as they lost that Phoenix game and then that next game they lost the Kings game, I'm thinking they better hope this doesn't like really impact something in the playoff seedings. If you're if you're 5 versus 4 and you don't have home court and you're playing against the Lakers, like that could mean something. And again, a 5-game winning streak, 2 decent teams at the front end with the Celtics and Spurs, couple games against the Pelicans, Clippers. Now in the next, 6-7 games, pardon my middle school lingo there, but the next few games, the next couple weeks are going to be important for the Timberwolves. All right, now let's switch over to college. I wanted to call out a couple specific games this week. Just very, I would say, surprising to me and how they went down. So first of all, I want to start with the Gophers. They are on a 3-game losing streak. They have lost 3 of their top 7 or 8 players. Chauncey Willis out for the year. Robert Vaihola hasn't been available for the last 4 games. BJ Omot still hasn't made an appearance since early scrimmages before the real season started. And, just things weren't trending right. People were starting to kind of feel like this is Ben Johnson era all over again, and this isn't looking good. And, we thought the first year would maybe be a little bit better than the last couple. Indiana's number 22 in the country. They haven't lost. Their new coach, Darren DeVries, and his son Tucker look phenomenal. They come into the barn, and what happens? Opposite of what everyone thinks. Gophers are 10.5-point underdogs, and they pull a 9-point win out of their hat. First of all, I know a lot of people were praising Grayson Grove's effort. He played really hard in his 7 or 8 minutes, right? Not a lot of time. Did some good things. Also can't make a free throw. Pretty, I would say, ineffective on the offensive end. But, as Niko said in postgame, winning plays, right? Like, I think when Tucker DeVries went in for that fast break dunk, the momentum had started to swing to Indiana. I think they were up 5. This would have went to 7. Grove, full out sprint, makes a play, blocks the shot, comes down, gets fouled, doesn't make the free throws. But those are like those, as a coach, as a fan, those are plays you remember because they changed the game. So that was one thing in that game. I think Cade Tyson, the more I watch him, the more I'm impressed. Like even when he's not scoring a ton, he doesn't force shots like some scorers want to do. He moves the ball. He makes cuts. So if someone's taking away jumpers, he can get to the basket. He makes free throws. He gets to the line a ton. Just really impressed overall with his game. And then, the other thing that I really was impressed with was I think Isaac Asama almost looked more comfortable this game being the primary ball handler than he did the game Willis went out, or even a couple of those games. I think Santa Clara was full court pressing. Maybe that was part of it, like just not having a lot of experience. But he looked so much more comfortable in that Indiana game. And, with his shot, he's going to fill the stat sheet, assists, rebounds, he steals, he does a lot of really good things as well. Also a guy who can make his free throws, so that's huge. Langston Reynolds is super fun to watch, like just a non-traditional guard in the sense that most of his shots are coming at the rim. Robbie Hummel even called it out on the broadcast about like, why are guys closing out hard on him? He is driving it 95% of the time. If he wants to shoot a 3, you let him. So just kind of maybe some inexperience on Indiana's part, or just missing the scouting report a little bit on him. But and then lastly, I know Niko talked about it a lot, but he brought Jalen Crocker-Johnson from Colorado State with him. And, his shooting hasn't been great early in the year. He got in foul trouble in that first half, just didn't ever find a rhythm. But, man, down that stretch they needed him, he came through. And that was just a great all-around team win. Like, Bobby Durkin hadn't been shooting well. So just an all-around nice win for the Gophers. Now they go to Purdue, who's real angry after what I would say was the biggest shocker of maybe the season. I know Iowa State's really good. Obviously, I picked them to be top three in the Big 12. I think Iowa State is phenomenal. I wasn't going to be surprised if they won, but how they won, just absolutely blowing Purdue out. They win by 23 at Mackey Arena. That means my top 10 is going to change big time this week. I had Purdue at the top most of the year. I had Iowa State sneaking in there this week. I think I had them at number 8. They're going to shoot up because that was just really impressive. Now, a couple things I did notice. Purdue didn't shoot it well at all. They were like 2 of 14 from 3 or something like that. And I don't think that's the norm for them. They were also 6 of 14 at the free throw line. So they just, I think, had a bad game. I'm not overly concerned with Purdue in general. They have some, a few things to work out. Like, they're not perfect by any means. But I also don't think this knocks them out of Big Ten contention. I don't think it knocks them out of national title contention. But I do think, if anything, it puts people on alert to Iowa State. Like, they're really good. If Tamin Lipsey and Joshua Jefferson stay healthy, they're going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if it's them in Houston in the final week to win the Big 12. Another game I watched that was really exciting, really fun game, kind of a defensive battle. It felt like an old school college basketball game, was the Duke at Michigan State game. Both teams were undefeated, and Duke wins 66-60. I was curious to see how Cam Boozer would do. I know he played really well against Florida's front line, which is more talented and athletic than Michigan State's. But Michigan State's guys like Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler are just kind of crafty, and they just like feel like they would be the guys that would bother Boozer. And Boozer didn't have a great first half. He comes out in the second half, and I've seen him do this a couple times now this year, is he won't be held in check for the whole game very often, if at all this year. It takes him, maybe it'll take him a minute. I think John Shire made some really interesting adjustments. They did some isolation. I think the other thing that's interesting about Duke this year, and you might see the bobblehead here and the poster of Tyus Jones. I'm kind of a Duke fan, but last year it drove me nuts that Cooper Flagg was always the guy at the end of games, and I think it hurt them. I think it put too much pressure on him, and it hurt their ability to make reads and plays. You saw in big moments, Flagg struggled a few times, turnovers or missed shot against Houston, and they had Con Knippel right next to him. I think this year, what I've seen a couple times is that Duke will defer. They'll get Boozer in the play and let him make the decision, and he is making the right decision against Florida. He passes to Isaiah Evans to hit the game-winning 3. And in this game down the stretch, you see other guys making plays, playing off of Boozer. He is a gravitational force. And, when you do that, you have to make the other guys better. So really excited about that. Same with the Purdue game. I don't know that I'm overly concerned about Michigan State. Jeremy Fears is phenomenal. Their guys they brought in from the transfer portal are playing well. So they got guys making shots. Kohler played really well. I think Michigan State maybe in that next tier behind Purdue and Michigan, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Michigan State right in with those two at the top of the Big Ten come early March. Those were the big games. I mean, there's plenty more to talk about in college hoops. St. Thomas went 1-1 in the Big Sky Summit League Challenge. They won today, Sunday, at home against Weber State comfortably. And, I think they got the big rivalry with the Johnnies coming back on campus at St. Thomas. So St. John's at St. Thomas later this week. That should be fun. Just a side note, if you're not a big college fan, this is a year somewhat unique. I heard Matt Norlander on the Eye on College Basketball podcast talking about this. And essentially, there's been more ranked versus ranked games in college basketball already this year than there ever has been in a total season. I'm talking about non-conference matchups. It's wild, and it's really fun. It's making these players more marquee, household names. So you're not hearing about Boozer for the first time in March. You're hearing his name and Michael Brown from Louisville and like some of these freshmen, AJ DeBanza, they're playing marquee games in November and December. And so it's really making for a fun start to the year. A lot of big matchups, a lot of opportunities. The one downside, some of the mid-majors aren't getting as many opportunities against the power conference teams, which, is unfortunate for them. But it's been a really fun start to the year for college basketball. All right, just a couple thoughts on the Breakdown Big Stage Classic held at Hopkins High School over the weekend. They had games from, I think, 10 a.m. all the way starting at 7:30. They finished with Tartan versus Hopkins. Tartan wins that one in a game that was called with about 9.5 minutes to go. Unfortunate. I think there were some fights in the stands and things going on, which is too bad because that was a good basketball game. Those are two very evenly matched teams. Tons of quickness and athleticism and scoring. Really fun guards in that game. The Titans are sometimes they get lost, I guess, in the east side. You got Cretin-Derham Hall, you got East Ridge. Tartan's always in that mix, and I think this might be one of those years where they're a little bit they're ready. They're ready to make a jump to the state tournament, make some noise in the state tournament if they get there. The game before that was De La Salle and Maple Grove. A lot of big time stars on the Maple Grove side. Max Iversen, who I knew the name sounded familiar. I couldn't place it. He was at Delano. So I first saw him as a freshman playing at Delano, starting, looking completely comfortable, which was impressive. And Delano goes into Orono in a section title game and almost knocks him off. And Iversen's starting and playing probably 30 plus minutes in that game. So I kind of had forgotten that that's who that was. Anyway, he's at Maple Grove now. He's going to NDSU next year. Just lights it up, has a huge game. Maple Grove kind of runs away from De La Salle. De La Salle's good, they're balanced, but that Maple Grove team with Iversen, and then they got Babacar Ann, who's got offers from a lot of high major programs. So he's a junior. So that Maple Grove squad is pretty good. And then they also got the big guy down low. So that was tough for De La Salle. Maple Grove wins that one easily. I actually saw Richfield for the first time this year, and I really wanted to see them because I've seen some of the scores and just totally impressed with that outfit. Man, those kids play so hard. They're mostly juniors. They're kind of led by, I would say, like Drake Collins, 6'5", kind of a wing player, super athletic, finishes so well around the rim, blocking shots. But their guards up top, especially when that game started. So Richfield played Champlin Park, and Champlin Park has a strong history. They've had great players. I don't know what it was like 20-2 out of the gates. Richfield's press was swarming, and their rotations, their quickness was so impressive, man. They are so fun. If you get a chance to watch Richfield this year, I highly recommend it. They've already beaten Benilde St. Margaret's. They beat Champlin by 25 or something the other night. And what I really enjoyed, and I do this as a former coach, what I will do is I will a lot of times spend time watching the coaches as much as the game. And I love the way Richfield's coach, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name. I should have checked it before I started recording this, but there was no let up. The attention to detail, the discipline, you can see how he coaches that team. I even told my boy, and I went with a friend and his kid, but every guy comes off the bench, they got to shake everyone's hand all the way down the line, and I like little things like that I think are important. And if somebody's not playing up to expectations, he had no problem sitting people. So I just think there's a level of intensity and discipline, focus on that Richfield team that is really fun to watch. They are super talented, but that's not, that doesn't always get you the farthest. Like we've seen teams get knocked off. So anyway, long story short, Richfield super impressive. They smoked Champlin Park. And before that, we saw Orono play. I try to see Orono every year. Barry Wohler's, got a great program. They've been great for a long time, but they lost Brady Woolley and they lost Nolan Groves. So they don't have quite the star power. They don't have quite the high-end talent that they've had in the past. They beat Breck fairly easily as well. They're solid. That's the best way I would say is like Orono they look like they're not going to probably beat themselves a lot. That's kind of the way they always play. They play, they're very unselfish. I feel like maybe they're going to be a little bit behind where they were last year, but that was a fun game too. I just really enjoy getting out and watching prep basketball, high school basketball, and seeing how guys coach and seeing how kids react to situations. And you hear about teams, and you want to go watch them because that's it's some of the cheapest entertainment you can find nowadays. Speaking of that, so next weekend Breakdown has another tournament. This time it's at Edina. The key matchup there is going to be Wayzata and Cretin-Durham Hall, which if you follow this podcast or read anything about high school hoops, there's some big talent in that game too. You got JoJo Mitchell going to St. Thomas next year. You got Ty Schlegel, Cretin-Durham Hall. He's a junior. He'll be going to Nebraska eventually, or at least he's committed to Nebraska. And then on the Wayzata side, you got Nolan Anderson committed to Minnesota. You got Christian Wiggins committed to Iowa State. So that's going to be a great game. So that's the Breakdown Tip-Off Classic. You got Hopkins, Totino Grace, another great game there. Eastridge and Maple Grove, so another couple of high D1, high major recruits in that game. If you get there early enough, 11 a.m., you got St. Paul Johnson against Mankato East, two of the top teams in 3A. That should be a really fun one. And then the night ends with Bram and Hills Beaver Creek, the small schools getting some love. Hills Beaver Creek coming off a state football championship. So that'll be a good one. So they got a couple gyms going next Saturday, the 13th, at the Boys Basketball Tip-Off Classic at Edina. So check that out if you are free next Saturday. All right, so that's the show. Thanks for listening. I want to give a special shout out, Joe McCafferty. Appreciate you listening and appreciate you coming to the Breakdown Classic with me this weekend. That was a good time watching some high school hoops. Minnesota's got some easier games coming up. St. Thomas playing a D3 team in St. John's. And so there's kind of a lull here in that regard. NBA's got the NBA Cup tournament kicking off. I believe it starts this week. And then, so there's a lot more prep, I would say, high school basketball going on right now. So we'll keep talking about that. We'll keep hitting on that every week we can. I know my buddy Matt Askegaard up in Barnesville, his team got their first win of the year, so they're 1-0. So I'm going to make sure to get him on here in the next few weeks too. If you missed the last episode, though, I also highly recommend listening to that. I had Jay Schwartz from East Metro Wave AAU basketball on, just giving a lot of good information on AAU and parent and player advice and training and things that have changed, things that work for him in his program. So really enjoyed that conversation as well. But again, thanks a lot for listening. Appreciate you coming back to the podcast. If this is your first time, stick around. Let me know what you think. And follow us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, I'm out. This has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast. Back in that bag again.